Hey, what's up you guys? It's Zania's World and I'm back here with another motherfucking video. Before we get into the video, like, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe, join the family. We're gonna hit 1K by the summertime, but let's get into it.
I be sliding on these tight beats, look at like who she.
Before we get into the video, I want you guys to please just like, comment, and subscribe. Please hit that button. We're gonna hit 1K by the summertime. Join the family. So with that being said, what is this video going to be about? So I like sharing all of my journeys that I go through. I'm very open about those things. But I'm very open about everything I go through. So I want to talk about my journey that I had with therapy and almost being in it for a year and a half, and each therapist and what they taught me and where I am now, because I want you guys to know the raw cut of me and what I'm going through, so that if you guys are going through the same thing, you guys can say, okay, I'm not alone. That's all I'm about. I'm about inclusivity. You guys come in here and being like, damn, she went through it, so let me not go through it too. But yeah. So we're going to talk about my first therapist, and his name is Joe. That isn't his real name, I believe, but this is where I was first introduced to Joe. So the first session I had was over the phone, because at this point I was working from home and I was like, I don't want to go in all the time. I don't have my own car. And he's just like, I really want you to come in because I want to see your body language. I want to see like everything that you're doing so that I can start assessing you and helping you, and I can't help you if we're over the phone. So I'm like, okay, well, next session I will be in there. Mind you, I was going through a lot of trauma. So then my second session, I went in there to see him, and he kind of made in the first session a really off-putting joke. And I think he thought he was being funny, or it probably was funny, but I just was like going through a lot where I was just like, that wasn't funny. That wasn't funny. So then second session, I start going in and we're talking and we're having a full-blown conversation, and I start seeing like, damn, like maybe I should start coming in more. So then the next week, each session, I start going into his office and we're talking. The relationship slowly starts to progress. We're talking about my at-home life, and this may be sound weird, but I deal with a lot of attachment issues. And after a while, and I'm gonna be so honest with you guys, after a while of me going there to my therapist, I started to gain a lot of attachment issues. And I didn't realize it until I was like, I want and I need to go to therapy every week. And then I was like, do I like him? Or do I like that he is my therapist? Because the relationship started to get very personable. Like, he was telling me about his life, his family, his wife, his daughter. And then I was like sharing about my life, my dad, my mom, my sisters, like what I'm going through. And then I started to like be like, oh my God, wait, am I in love with this man? So then that week that I really was about to go in and tell him about that situation, he actually, he quit his job because he had to go somewhere to go back to Chicago because he had a family emergency. And that lasted 2 months, and I was heartbroken. So what did Joe teach me? Joe taught me that I can have a man in my life who actually cares about me. Also, Joe taught me boundaries, that not every relationship has to be sexual, and that people just simply love and care about me. Joe taught me like how to start being more hard on myself, because like, why am I allowing these things to go on? Why was I allowing all of these things to happen to me? He was a man in my life, the only man in my life that actually cared about me and my mental health. And I really thank him for that, because if I didn't have a male, right, my first therapist be a male, I would just have these women experience. But then to hear from a man like, Zania, leave him, he isn't a good person. And I really love Joe. But then we're gonna move on to the second person. So we're gonna call the second person Jay. Jay was very passive. I love that girl, but she was very passive. For 3 months, I was going to her office, sitting down and being re-traumatized each time I sat in her chair. I was making a lot of progress, but it wasn't because of her, it was because of me. Essentially, that is what you're supposed to do when you're in therapy. You're supposed to be making progress because of you, not because of the therapist. The therapist is not supposed to tell you. But no, the therapist is there to ask you leading questions. But every time I was with her, it felt like I was being re-traumatized each and every single time. And this relationship started becoming, again, very personable. When I would come in, we would talk about the most random stuff. Like, it just felt like, again, I was talking to a friend and not to a therapist. And that was the problem. I wanted a therapist. I didn't want a friend. I needed somebody like Joe who could give it to me like this, like punching. Zania, get out of that relationship. I didn't need somebody like, oh, Zania, it's okay. It's okay, let's talk about it. No, I needed somebody who was going to listen to my story, give me feedback, and actually, like, you know what I mean? But every time I went in there, I was being re-traumatized. At this point, I got on antidepressants. I forgot what it's called. It's something that a lot of people take. But I got antidepressants. They worked out all of November. At this time that I was seeing her, I was also going through really, really bad suicidal depression where I was just overthinking. I wanted to kill myself. And if you guys don't know, I have a story time how my cousin slept with my ex-boyfriend. And I will put that story time link down below, or it's just a couple like months down. Just scroll a little bit and watch that video. But I was going through a lot. And I was also fighting with myself saying, should I get back with him? Should I not? I know it's a crazy thought, but mixed with the antidepressants, my therapist re-traumatizing me, and my ex coming back into my life, I made a lot of bad mistakes where I thought everything that I learned with Joe just washed away because now with Jay, I was doing all of this dumb stuff. And again, I felt like I was hitting like this really bad like plateau, you know what I mean? Because I was now going so up and learning so much from Joe and learning all of my self-esteem stuff, and then boom, with Jay, it was like, it was horrible. So in January of 2022, I started to really question if I should keep on going to Jay. I slowly started calling off of all of my things. Still, I was going through a lot of stuff with the ex stuff, but then I finally left it alone. But I was like, do I really need somebody who's gonna continuously trigger me? So then once I left her and I officially, like, this is God, like God's divine timing. When I left her, right, tell me why the same day I was gonna tell her that I did not want to go to her, I wanted to switch therapists, she's gonna call me on a private call. She's like, oh my God, Zania, you didn't come in today. And I was like, yeah, I just had something to do. And she's like, well, I wanted to break the news to you before you figure it out, but I'm quitting. And I was like, damn. So that was my second therapist that quit on me. Jay, I would say Jay taught me, I don't really know what Jay taught me. I loved her though. Love you, girl. So my next therapist is going to be J.E. We're gonna call her G. We're gonna call her G. So G was a filler until I found another therapist, right? So I went with her. She was a white woman. She had a lot of experience, but what I realized was when I was telling her all of these things, she was listening, but she actually wasn't listening. You know what I mean? Because I was like sharing my experience with her and what I went through. And again, it felt like I was not being listened to because her as a white woman, she couldn't understand my struggle and what I was going through. We could share the same experience, but I just needed somebody who was black or had a brown face that knew exactly what I was going through as a person. You know what I mean? So I went with G, and that was for a couple weeks. And then again, I'm like getting attached again, where I'm like, okay, I'm making a lot of new things about myself. I'm doing so good. And then guess what? G's gonna call me and we're gonna get on a thing, and she's like, hey Zania, I just wanted to break it to you, but I will be leaving this job. There's a Black therapist at your old office that you could go to. I know that you like inclusive, like you want to be with somebody who looks like you, so I'm going to pass you off to her. And so I was so pissed off. I remember that day I was like, oh my God, why does everybody keep on quitting on me? And like, what's wrong? So then moving on. So I go to that Black therapist, and we're gonna call her C. C starts telling me, statistically Black woman. Like, I was just like, and she was an older woman. So this is what this bitch would do, okay? I'm sorry for calling my elder a bitch, but this is what this bitch would do. She would stand up right when it was 2 minutes before we left, let me talk. At the last minute, she would stand up and she would start guiding me out the door while I'm asking her questions. And she was like, get the fuck out. So it only took me 2 sessions to be like, yeah, I need a new therapist. So then I left that one. And then we're gonna go back to my 5th therapist, and we're gonna call her Miss W. Miss W, sorry. So once I went to Miss W, we could only do online sessions, but when I went to her, I have learned and made so much progress since I have been with this woman. She is a Black middle-aged woman, and she has taught me so much and helped me through so much and didn't judge me through so much. And I want to say that the reason why I'm doing YouTube, the reason why I'm staying consistent, the reason why I'm doing all of these things is because she helped me through that. She helped me understand what I was going through. She helped me, she guided me. And that's when I started to stop being friends with people who didn't care about me. That's when I started to see my worth. That's when I started to put my worth in my work, you know? And after I started making all of this momentum and picking up and doing all of this stuff, I'm like, okay, maybe life is good. And then I slowly start to realize that I'm doing so good that I don't have to be here every single week, because it's like, why am I talking about the things that happened last week when I could, you know, like I'm just getting up. I'm like, okay, I'm doing so good. I'm learning so much. What you could still teach me, but what can you teach me? You know what I mean? Like, you gotta really think about it. Recently, I started to realize that Miss W did so much and teach me so much that now it's time to actually start applying those things she teach me to real life. So I started to go to her therapy sessions every 2 weeks. And after I went every 2 weeks, I'm at a point in my life where it's like, you have taught me so much and I'm so thankful. But I know in my own body that if I keep on going to you, I'm going to be codependent. I need to go on my own, and I need to start doing everything that you guys taught me. And now I'm at a point in my life where it's like, I still need therapy, but I don't need it as much, as often. And I don't even think like every 2 weeks. I think like once a month I would need therapy. But I'm just such in a spot where it's like, I need to learn. I need to grow on my own. Let me grow. So my advice to you guys is that it took me 1.5 years to get to this point. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I'm healed. I'm not saying that, you know, I'm just saying that when it comes to healing, I have came to a point in my life where I just want to learn. With that being said, I love you guys, and I'll talk to you guys later. I'm so sorry I like ended it like all abrupt, but I love you guys, and bye.